we can go to this this MQL5 and get this free indicator. It runs at MT4. I don't know if it runs on MT5 at all, but some guy's asking about it in here. But this is what I've been building all these smooth Akinashi candles on. And I'm trying to build a Akinashi system that's just a visual filter for what is the latest trend and what would be the appropriate directional trade to take. So it is a directional system which has its flaws because at some point the direction is going to change, but it's trying to keep you in there. Now, based on the sequence of these numbers, this to me I would name this HAS, and I would put in, I'd call this a 2632, you know, and so if I went to my editor, that's what it would look like. Now the place I'm trying to launch it here is I'm trying to build, this one's going to be super simple, and what I did was, this is the white candle that you see, which is like a trailing stop, like a parabolic, like an SAR, parabolic SAR, and that's so finally the dollar's going to go down, huh? So the this is a buy right here. If you like, even though it's blue, it's downtrend, you're going to go with the structure entry. You're forced to go with the structure rules everything. But if you wanted to smooth it out and you wanted to ride some of these so-called trends, which in this case the trend is like, okay, it's uptrend, but then it's like not. So, you know, this is an on and off thing. So this double top's taken out, and this is your first time that it's okay to trade it from the long side. First green. As soon as you have no colors, you know you're in a doji or you're in a stall. This candle here has still green, so it's still in buy mode. Then the first trailing sell stop would come in here. You probably get chopped out. So if you imagine the whites as your stop, and that's the 3-period method, 3-period, everything's 3 straight across when you look at the code. So you'd see a MA 3, a method 3, and an MA 2-3, and a method 2-3, and but that's not the thing, you know. To back test it visually, and some guy in Australia who makes millions a year was upset about me looking back for entries, which, I mean, if you're building a robot, which is essentially what this is a manually driven robot. So this is a system. A system is nothing but, like people talk about these robots, but basically they're just taking rules from previous situations that we all know is going to happen. When the market moves too quickly, it's very short-lived. And when the market moves too slowly, something bad's going to happen on either direction. There's going to be an explosion of volatility, and then it's going to be rip your face off. Then they're going to go down and trap people. This is the weekly, so the monthly guys, you know, there's this double bottom, and here's the trap, right? Classic trap, and the bears think that it's just going to keep going down. And that's what they thought here, too. It's just going to keep going down, but bam, and then they come back. This is always going to go on forever and ever. So the only thing that matters are these pivots. At that handle, this is where all amazingly the turns come up. This is the shoulder for this head. Same story, different day. Bottom becomes, you know, but on closing prices. And if you're going to go with the blind trader bot, you know, you're only trading from long side, right? Even though you could have counter trend traded it off of this, when this wick popped up into this kind of a, well, there's a flat spot, you know, there's a doji, like here's a doji. So that's the ricochet point for these guys, and it just keeps like it's like a dirt road with potholes in it. So when the first pothole's established, then the fractal from now on happens to be like this big cascading ripples of bad potholes upon bad potholes, and now there's a big gash in the road, you know, and then it heals itself. So even this was healed at some point. The plunge down into here And not only did it recover to here, it stalled out here. This was supposed to be the big resistance. And when that failed, then of course the trend bots, you could see what they're thinking. They're like, it's in an uptrend, at least for the next, 8 weeks or whatever. Another thing, if you're going to stack all these smooth Ashis, I choked a account the other day. I had the default settings inside of MetaTrader set to look back too far. So if you go up to Tools, go to Options, you're going to want to go to Charts, because if you go with the default, which is some ungodly amount of history, and an ungodly amount of, you'll actually, unless you have a super fast computer, the computer's going to choke. Like if you're running 20 charts like that, because so much math, every time you stack another version of the smooth Ashis, you're going to have more and more math. But that's the nice thing about trading on these platforms, is that you couldn't do this with legally like a car. Like if you took your car and you put in a major engines in, and if you make your car like so race car, it's just not street legal. But here you could do anything. But this is a simple system. And this white, so as you go through the time frame, so, but you wouldn't want to, on the weekly, you could say, hey, better think about, and notice there's not one green here. There's one green here, I think, where it tries to get the party started. And it's just over, here's one green underneath. But this is where people get chopped to death, and maybe you have to go to the monthly. So if you go to the monthly time frame, here's a whole month of pure, like you're in an uptrend, but you know what? This downtrend, which turns on a dime, but to me this is trend trading. I wouldn't go to the other trend. Like there's a trend within the trend. So if I was going to strictly color trader, I mean, yeah, sure, it's going up. So this blue is counter trend entry, but there's still people on the short train making a ton of money into your long. So it's constantly like, and besides, you got to get out. So one man's profit is another man's exit. He's getting out. It should be a revolving door, so everybody wins, right? We're all winners here. Oh, we're gonna give you a participation medal. So you actually, this is the only place you can get one. Look at this nasty wick down here. This is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Look at this trap and bag down here. Gosh, for the love of Pete. And this wick here, that is brutality. This is 100 pips. This is like 500 pips. Some crazy stuff going on. What in the hell? And then that was just totally rich. I mean, we never looked back. This was the only pullback was to this. You got to be kidding me. That's crazy. And now, the scalps to there, I'm out. See you, bye, next trade. I would never be able to ride this thing. If it made it to here, I'd be like, see ya. You didn't see that price again until here. You had to wait, I don't know, only a year, 6 months. Well, pretty good, right? Each bar is a month. So you would say you're in a downtrend here, according to Blue. Problem is, I'm always thinking of this trade, which has got to be the lowest risk trade in the world. It goes below here. They trap these guys, and you just make this like high probability trades, right? They come above here, they trap all these guys, they pull it down all the way back to starting gate. And when this thing's, but there should be a rule system when this is screaming down like this. Here's a nice place to, probably the most gentle trend trade in the world. Just keep hitting the sell key. And this is when people will say, that thing made so much damn money. Sure. And that's your trailing stops. These whites would be your trailing stops. Very conservative, right? Very, of course, you're giving the market plenty of room. So you got stopped out right here. You could have actually got out before they stopped you out. So right here you sold, and this is where the top became the bottom. And now that you're short, your sell stops are here, and they stop you out, I guess, right there. So the problem there is you're getting late entries. So if you get in too late, they're going to trap you. So this last bottom that became a top, the party's just about over. It was a very weak top bottom, and sure, but those are good pips, right? This is only 300 pips down. That's not bad. If you sold right there on the clock, you made 500 pips. And your stop, if it was on the trailing, so you're giving that about, say you sold right here on close that day, you put your stop here, and maybe they stopped you out. See, there's a problem right there. But that's the reason why there's always the limit. So there's always the kickback, there's always the kick up. The kickback before the plunge, they stopped out. The people that bought this hammer thinking, wow, they probably have stopped. The people that have stops here, their target's way up here, at least, right? So if you think, well, I'll put those giant stops in. If you put a 200 pip stop in, you're looking to make the 400, or you're looking to make this. If your stop was this big, your target's like this, like nuts. You want to trade it back into that, right? And then it becomes this inflection again. See? Always now what's the next? Yeah, up here everybody's going to sell. It's on and on with this thing. Because it's just time frame dependent. How much do you want to, how much time do you want to torture yourself with? And right now, what do you do now, right? Maybe scalp it there. Who knows? You go 4 hour. Oh, you had to get in here, the 4 hour trap. So, and this is a 100 pip grid. So, but here you can see you're only in sell mode for the whole week. Sell, sell, sell the whole week. Sell, sell, sell. It doesn't get any easier. Right now you're in an uptrend. You're looking to get in, either buy here a little bit. Don't get carried away because it's probably going to come back here. So structure rules. That was the trap we could retest. Could go down another. It's only Wednesday, so got 2 days left. This is kind of the panic mode. But the trend line's here. So people keep banging this. So you're selling here. You're selling on the blues every time you touch here. So it's pretty simple rules. There's only two smooth Akinashis on here. The background is a volatility Akinashi because it's no direction to it. It's just white, whether it's up or down. The only thing that's directional is this one on top, which is this 1 2 1 2. And this is just blue green, blue green. So it's method 1, period 2, method 1 again, period 2. So I'm treating that as my, I'm sorry, no, this is the actual trend. So the trend's very tight. This trend is turning on a dime. I'm only giving a 2-period moving average to that. And I don't even know what the method. If I tighten the method up, it might make this shift actually harder. I don't know. You could sit there and tweak that till you're blue in the face or green in the face. But I mean, some people, they don't mind. It's really like sitting there getting out the needle valves and dialing in tuning up your old car. But maybe you want to go there. But certainly the trend. So this is a reason to pull a key or reason to only be a seller for that whole week. Here, you're getting chopped to death. This is the argument against this style trading. This is about structure, triple bottom, quadruple bottom. This is supposed to be the triple bottom that becomes a top here, and we just go down. It's the trap now. Right at the 100. Look how many times we touched the 100. So people are feeding on that line. This is the 50-yard line. So there's the 50. Don't quite make it to that. There's the trend line to break. Triple bottom becomes a top, the rollover. As soon as you go blue, and this is a 2-period moving average essentially, right? Start selling. Now, you're either selling this every time it touches on the structure point on the clock, or you have sell stops stacking up, sell stops stacking up, blam, sell stops stacking up, blam. Or you're throwing in sell stops with sell limits, which really, that's what these would be. You have to hand place the limits on that trend line to really get a killer, like to make the theory work. Your sell limits here, you get filled here, but you also have sell stops stacking up to pick you up in the flow. So you have flow entry, You have sell limits. See, they go crushing back all the way to this triangle. It's quite a lot of, and this is where I guess you could say it pays off to be a little bit on the sidelines here. So just look at this, what you would be doing now. Oh, geez. This poor thing, man. I just want to see this little section here. I can't even zoom in one level. Who wrote really seriously? Okay. I clicked it as tight as I could possibly. All right, so we drill down. Here we go. If you only put buy stops in when you're in green mode, you're long. Your protection goes here. You're covering. You're not even at break even here unless you moved if you moved every bar up, then you broke even. See, that's why you got to get the hell out. If you move stuff to break even too much, you're just never going to make any money. You got to take something out of there. If this was your trailing sell stop, they already chopped you out. So you're taking out of that trend. Maybe you got in down here on this non-directional all black buy stop entry. If you put your stop too tight, you're not long for the ride. So there's a balance point between how tight is your stop and what to do when. Now, as soon as this went blue and you just started putting sell stops in here, you're making, bam, you make some nice money here. Nice money. Nice money. Not so much. They kind of trapped you in, but here you make it all back and then some. Very quickly. Now, you don't have another sell till here. They kind of trap you, and then they kick back the kick up before the smash. But it's kind of dicey here, and you know that it could be over, and we could come all the way to here, but we didn't. And it's still in blue mode. If you went to the dailies are blue. So if you have blue dailies, everybody would be looking at the 4 hour for their entries. This is my kind of trend trading. In other words, the trend is now up. Trend's down this week. Trend's sideways at the beginning of the week. Trend's still down from last week. And then down. Very tight trends. I built a robot like this. I made a ton of money on I just went to MT4. I said, buy every time the moving average 1 crosses over the 2. And I didn't know how to tell it to buy any particular way. I bought at the market. But it turned out I made a lot of money. It was hilarious. So here you're in buy mode, right? You either buy at the market because you're green. It's a very simple system. This would be a moving average crossover, but instead of watching those moving averages drive you crazy, you just have color shift. And here you got the 1 period moving average. Here it's a 2 period moving average. But I think that the smoothing is the way they treat the open and the close and the range of the day. But it's a great. So I put it on everything here. And I kind of deleted some stuff here, but if you run it on everything, say you went to crude oil here and you ran it on the weekly, you'd see that at this point down here, you're going long. You would have been short on this whole ride down. It works pretty good on a smooth market like this. Now, Forex, if this is any time frame, you're 4 hour, right? It's like, whoa, sell, buy. People may not like that. People feel like they're being whipsawed and tricked and stuff. So even on the 4 hour, it looks very actively switching trends. Here you're bullish, then you're bearish, then you're bullish. But you know the bearish rides are kind of quiet. But yeah, this could be. Now if you look at the monthly crude, you just went green. So I would expect a retest or something, or who knows. But look at that. That never went down for the whole. With just this. Here's the only bullish kind of entries. This is actually like a wave 2 or 4 or however your count starts out. That's the way I'm looking at it. It works on everything nicely. Here's a nice here's a weekly trend, right? It's up. First now you're in sell mode. Technically or trendically speaking, you're in sell mode. But you know that there's always going to be this part where these trend bots falter and they get all confused here where the colors are shifting, but it becomes about the fact that, yeah, it keeps on poking these wicks, which means you're in another redistribution phase. So these are markdowns. So you can always tell a markdown because it's wave 3 or a markup. So they marked it up, pause, maybe one more markup, but then this is always going to be distribution, always going to be accumulation. When you see this insane, like everybody's like, we're just not making any money. Okay, the trend traders should just hate this stuff. And they're like, why would the market do that to me? Just when we thought we could trust you. And but some people are looking for this setup. It comes down, 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 retests here. They got buy limits, and they know if they hold through here, they don't have to trade this breakout. They're already up on the trade. Maybe their stops trailing here. They came close to getting stopped out there, but this envelope, this would be like your Bollinger Bands or something like ATR envelope, and I'm sure you can make rule systems for big envelopes and small envelopes, but you can visually tell. Now you can layer this thing up with a million, and here's the old classic. This is a whole year of accumulation. Isn't that insane? And then they mark it up to here, and it looks like they're about to blow that puppy through the top. Probably trap people and just go into this stuff. Who knows? But these phases here, like people, you may just made a fortune. Well, I guess, for the euro against the pound, right? And because usually euro against the pound, you just think, well, really? It's like this normally. Just wackadoodle. Okay, the Australian dollar is coming back with a vengeance right now. Let's take a look at that. All right, so that's the Heiken Ashi system, smooth. And I guess they all are, but this isn't the classic. I took all the candle wicks out. I like the bars. I want to see the closing prices. I want to see the zigzags and the triangles, and you can see all that stuff on here. So the only real trade I got on this demo is this CAD. So I put in my orders down here just based on structure, and the trend's been down, but you know what? It's getting choppy now. So here's one that would have made some nice money. If you went sell mode here, counter trend, but it puts you right in green. You don't get now. Here's where you get chopped to death. Everybody's moving average crossover systems start to say buy sell buy sell buy sell. So you're either in a distribution phase for a little markdown, or it's reaccumulation for just another explosion up, which that's what kind of gave you this. Everything that came back to this point, there's people that sold there and then they never took profits, so we came back here. A lot of people got in. This is the top that became the major bottom. And the trend followers were saying, oh, it's bearish, it's probably going to... And there was a trend line right here. So it's totally possible that it could have faltered there and found a wave. But no, there was a huge void up by here, so we had to go another 1,000 pips up. And in trend trading, classic pullbacks, the trend bots keep saying, yes, it is a trend. This is classic. It's going up. You're only one dimension removed because this is the trend on a 2-period moving average, and this is the 1 period coming back in. Doesn't get any tighter than that. The 1 period coming into the 2. It's not even a crossover. It's a moving average trying to cross over. So here's the trend. That's it. This is like backpicking if you play guitar. You just backpick. And this is what it's about. Top becomes a bottom while you're in green. Even if the last biggest price pulse was green, you're probably going to get consolidation with some blue, and then you're going the other way. So here's only 2 bars of consolidation. But structurally, you didn't care about the trend bot because it was all about this double top becoming this bottom. I guess I should be drawing it with this thing here. But we're right there now. So everybody's scalping out here, I guess I should get out of this thing. I'm up pretty big on this stamp. But I just placed, see, this is, since it's a demo, I just hand placed orders in there. Zoom in. And I only got filled on 2 of those, see? No stops. But it was about putting the order here, and I did put one deeper on this top. So these orders aren't just randomly placed. Well, they are, I guess. Well, this one actually is right at this pivot, but what you could actually have done is, put one here. So you're going to cluster them right there. Right in there. Because that's where you could have bought your first buy limit here. And the thing is that the guy that did, he's probably going to get the hell out. Now that's a scalp on the weekly to me, because if that was a 15-minute chart, that's what a scalp looks like to me. In other words, high probability that it invades this area. This big support level gets snapped. People tried to break out, but everybody's aware of the fact that there's this support level down here, and that this is going to be the ricochet zone. This is going to be, it's going to look like this. I mean, I guess I can see it coming. I guess Mother Nature doesn't like this. They're like, wait a minute, that's support, but bam, right? So it's cantilevered out too far. Like this market is too overextended. It's reached up into the stars. And any pullback, you'd be short that whole time on 2-period moving average. So I like the 2-period moving average. It's nice and tight. It's bad enough there's a 3-period moving average out there. But you can make that. But as soon as you start to go that, it would probably take this out. You'd probably still be green if you went to a 3-period. So maybe that's the answer. Smooth that out. You take a 3-period trend. Or you could just switch time frames. Right? You could go out to the bigger time frames. So if you're right in the, so say you're in this tight mode here, you're on a 15-minute chart. So here's a half-hour chart. So your entries would have been, your only chance to getting 15 minutes to pull the trigger here on these 2 pullbacks. But I just like the pullback, to see that pullback. You could make it a color switch. So you could have, when this is one color against this, you're getting in. Or maybe you're buying, maybe you do have buy limits on these whites. Instead of having protection sell stops, you've got buy limits there. Imagine this is trailing buy limits too. So if you really think you're in an uptrend, you want to get in even if they come back and do one of these smack and runs where they retest that, and now you're getting filled on that white. With the rule system, or buy stops on the white blues, always riding in case you go the other way. And so you go the other way, you put more trend-based orders that have a tighter stop with a bigger take profit. Now you're running a little bit more aggressive trend. Just keep hitting that button. Of course, here, the only time it took a breath, and to get rid of the blue, you just go to the 1 hour. So when you go to the, if you took this, smooth this out one more level, it'd be like going to the 1 hour right now. So you either want to look at the 1 hour, because you smooth it out, so you know virtually that's the 1 hour trend. So you can take this to the 1 hour and see a whole day. There's, after this opening trap here, the whole day's up. So you could have placed multiple orders here. You could have a buy limit here for the lock-in. You're locking into that fake breakout, and here buy limits, right? Just a whole, try to capture as much as you can afford. Now some of these are scalps that get out. You gotta picture this stuff happening before it happens. Now here's Sunday night, and everybody's aware of the fact that this is support, but we have to violate support by this much for 2 hours. Okay, that's ridiculous. You're already making money to here. You had to have scalps in there, right? Because you have to, you know that if it goes down here, it may just keep plummeting. So if it does bounce here and then that really becomes the breakout, you had to make something, because if they take that puppy down, your wider stops that you put in there to make this much money, they're going to blow that out. This is why you need to be able to scalp. Should be able to, as they say, get your brain around putting a scalp ticket in there. It's going to seem pretty unbelievable, but it works. You got a buy limit here with a stop here, and you're going to get out here. Or you got a buy limit here with a stop here, and you're getting out here. So you create a whole capture zone here, but you've also got a capture zone that's this big to make this much, and this capture zone is going to make this much, and on, right? It's a circle within the circle. So you're always, and hopefully it's the famous Nautilus shell. So you're buying here, and as the shell goes out, right, but it's more like a snail. I call it the snail trader. Snail trader. Forget the turtle trades. These snails aren't even barely moving. So it's like this, because the snail's got that thing, but he's got a hard stop. I guess I'm screwing that up because he's got this kind of amphitheater thing going. So your take profits are you're really looking down a logarithmic tunnel. Because ideally, you have this focused area. You have this, end of the world stop. You know this is coming. Everybody's aware of this. Friday's low, Monday, and they melt down. The trend traders come in and they tug it all the way down. Here's your breakthrough, pull back. It's all happening in a 1 hour chart. You'd really have to babysit this, I guess. So I forget what I said. But this bottom becomes a quadruple bottom, becomes a top. The trend bots are all short. People take profits, but the people that bought here, they want out at break even. They're like, uh-oh, I was wrong. Ba-bam. But we all know about this area, and I would just put orders on all the way to here. But some of these are going to get out off the charts. So see how far off the charts you are. So when you drill down, you're like, okay, well, if I was still long that, I'm up pretty good. But it's these critical areas like this. I'm only looking back 5 days. Now, the problem is if you go like this, you're like, oh, well, geez, what about this bottom, this bottom? We're only worried about the next thing that's going to happen. You can only worry about the next thing. And there's 24 bars in a day. So there's plenty of opportunity to make at least 10 to 40 pips twice a day. I don't know. Depends what currency you go to. Some of these things are crazy. Nuts. If you don't want to trade that, go to 4 hour, right? So 4 hour trend, down, down, down. Here's a classic. Kicks back. It's this floor. Now this is your sell limits. And your sell stops are here. Kind of risky. But you already had your sell stops triggered here. So you already wrote it to here. You made enough money. You could resell it on limits. Or you wait for a small bar. Here you kind of get trapped. But if you hung in there, but here's the kickback before the last plunge. So there's always going to be that. Now here's the perfect top become a bottom with the green telling you stay long. Or look for top bottoms when you're green. Okay. Look for a bottom become a top. When you're blue, look for sells. This is the only rally. This is the redistribution, one more markdown. So you see this in Forex all the time. A hard 8 hour markdown, maybe another 12 hour hard markdown. Then it's over. Big markdown, pause, big markdown. A little retracement, but back into here naturally. Always back into a structure that's from last week. You don't have to go. You go back like 1 week, right? So, you do need to think about the way things crumble. And these markets crumble. So everything's on a crumble. And up or down. Look at this damn thing. Come on. Right at the 100-yard line. Very suspicious. Looks very manipulated to me, like these people worried about the actual... oh, yeah. 100 pips for these people. Look where this comes back to. 4-hour CAD. Interesting. And everybody's bullish. There's only one bear bar. These black bars, you know you're in this territory of people settling their books, switching the books over. So you have a big distribution. And then you explode out of that. Trap up into the last known trend here. Of course, on the daily, you're going to be all blue. So you can kind of figure that, right? You've got a daily chart. So you should be able to see it coming. It's all blue, right? Last a lot of days down, they're all blue. Let's look at all this blue. So this would have kept you long here. And here's the argument for buying on the limits on the whites for the amazing, where they stop hunting people. But yeah, that's now it's too late for me to go along, but you can see people say it's long. I would have to go to the 15-minute chart. So I would trade the 15. If I was sitting here, I would just trade 15. Who doesn't want to get into the half hour? I guess whatever's get a smoother. When the market gets really quiet, you got to keep going with a bigger time frame. So all these currencies, here's the Australia to the yen. Pretty choppy. Very rangy. See, this market's going nowhere. So you have to, the trend trade here, see how this is 4 hits up here. So to trade this trend style, you're like, at this point, your trend bot is just completely suffering. Because this whole accumulation, which the first time you see a zigzag, you're like, uh-oh. And then, gosh, they just keep on punishing this. And finally, that trend doesn't last very long. Just a few days. Then we go to Chopville. So, very hard to, you'd really have to just say, I don't know. Go to the weekly chart. This is the roughest looking market in the world, right? I guess if you're going to use a tool, look at this trend. Is that a trend? Come on. According to the color bot, it's a trend. Call that a trend? That's ridiculous. So if that's a trend, then the idea of going and doing stuff like this, like, yeah, we're in an uptrend, see? Look at this. Hey, Joe, look at this. It's green. And then, but what? This is Australia versus the yen. Good Lord. What in the hell did they do to deserve that? Oh, look at this one. See now, once you start zooming out like this, you can see how ridiculous. Now this would be, you know, you're basically, I'm short, it's blue. Wow, that's a lot to look at, but a lot to think about. But you can see the way the trend line is a structure on close. When they violated here, it was supposed to hold here, at least for Mother Nature's view of a trend. And then you create your channel off of that, right? So here's your giant. So if you commingle these two, so you've got the color system. Here you know channel-wise that you're in a down channel. Right, this is obviously established down channel. But when you rally back in, you're getting the green up, you know you're ready to hit the sell key, and you've got all the sell limits clustering up here. So here's a classic example that happens over and over again, is the all these wicks. Look at all these punishing wicks. You can't even see what's going on here. is the bodies of the candles. Here's a triple support breakdown, this big wedge, but look at all the pounding in here. That is so much money range trading for, I mean, a year of range trading. Glory, right? Here is the bottom that comes to the top. This reminds me when gold was making moves like that. Total buy mode, green. Do not do anything but buy. So even if you got in, bad, you're loving it. Here you're in sell mode, but doesn't mean that this part here, saying that you're a trend trader and you're going to go short here, ouch. So if you aren't prepared for 1 year of nonsense before getting paid a couple years later, because this is big position trading, but if you're a big slow moving dinosaur fund, they can't, you're not high frequency trading. This, I call this low frequency trading, I think. So that would be a whole different world, right? Low frequency trading. Guy waiting for this thing to zoom out. I think I choked the computer because I got all the sock and Ashi stuff on here, so that's not helping. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, buddy. Anyways. Oh, here's British pounds, a buy right there. See, now this is the 1 hour chart. But I'm just looking at it as far as that's kind of looks like we could just go up. This is the cup. This is the handle from the cup. So you can see cup and handles on here too. I call these cups right here. This is the cup. This is I call that a V bottom. So if you look at my page 248.5, you'll see me describe the V bottom. Here's another V bottom. And here's another famous V bottom, and here's the famous triangle. Very steep triangle. But if you're contrarian, you've got your sell stops in here, waiting for the big down blast. So those people wait longer. Contrarian people have to wait longer for things to reverse. So if you have buy stops here and you're placing, you're actually trading the opposite of the bot, or you've got the sell stops here, or you're putting on hedges, directional hedges with a background of this color. So anytime you get a doji during blue, you're putting a bearish hedge on. A bearish biased hedge. I mean, it's a little parachute, or you're just putting in damn sell stops like a blind idiot. Here it's a little tough because if you just stick with color rules, you're going to get trapped there. You have to be somewhat aware of the fact that the last known big price pulse was green up, and this is nothing more than a structural pullback. So you have to have a little bit of gray matter or visual acuity to see that this baby top, which you had about 8 hours to mark off, it already happened. This is the big move you missed, or you had the sell limits up here for the classic. This is actually resistance in just the most simple terms, and it's amazingly at the round number. It's totally conspiratorial. Even this pullback is to the round, a little pop below, but all the trend bots are in buy mode there. This is over and over again. Same stupid stuff. Here is major support was supposed to hold and did not hold. Even the guys with sell limits, unless they put them in a range, they never got filled on the sell side. And people are dying to get short this. All the trend bots say we're in sell mode, look for a place to sell. So here's some rallies to sell. Now on these rallies, if you had this color coded to be a certain color up, say it's yellow up, and this is where it becomes difficult because it's hard to put too much on there. You're not going to know what the hell to do. You can see visually it's up. The analog view is it's up. The digital view is the color changed. In other words, the color view or the structure view. It doesn't matter what color the wallpaper is, but it does matter if the room has 4 corners or 3 corners. So if you're in a triangular room, you have a little bit of a different view of the world than if you're in, it doesn't matter what color that room is. It's a triangle. So that's the structure thing. The the fact that you have a bullish or bearish candle is more of a flavor thing. Oh, it's bullish or bearish. It's on or off. But the in other words, you could represent that by a color shift, and it wouldn't mean anything structurally, because unless you hung your 2x4s or whatever you're building, your framework, on top of the top and bottom of that candle. But then it becomes overly complicated. You've got so many lines in a chart where if you just go with the root skeleton of the market, which is the closing prices, then you're only left with simple peaks and valleys, very simple triangles, and very simple symmetrical and ascending and all that stuff, and or just wedges, just damn wedge, right? Just in other words, the market's getting quiet, everything's calming down before the next bitch slapping, which is coming. And the frequency and duration of these is always kind of slightly different. So I see at least two obvious triangles on here that are only line chart based. They're not based on the wicks, but this slope down to here for me is a real compression triangle and a complete explosion, and it never looks back. It never comes back to the apex of the cone of this. And here's the other one. It's probably the most simplest, doesn't get any more gentle of a triangle formation than that. And here's another high. This is a very steep triangle. This is more like a delta. And this is the classic where you're just trapped in a range, and that can go on for quite some time. This is a range trap. And could be a range trap tonight, but I'm just going to scalp to here and I'm out. We make it to this, I'm out. Come back, buy limits, doesn't matter. On and off, in and out, but. And it's the only way to do it. But it is fun to play around with the trend to see what it, because people are like, oh, and if you go with that, this climax here, and then the rest of the day, forget about it. It never looked back, just kept melting and melting and melting, and there was actually not even a higher close, so never an indication of trend change there. So same thing with Guppy, it's structure rules all the time. Here's a sideways debate where you never got anywhere. Again, like kind of was sideways here, here was the only rally in the blue. Didn't even get a top bottom going. That's how fierce the sell-off was. It never even came back up. And here was the big changeola. Here was your first place to buy on pullback into green. First pullback in the green, you bought there. That's the only pullback you got. I think people were very much anticipating that. There was a lot of sell orders here. A bunch of hedge funds, these guys run clunky stops. The thing about, you got to realize about the lag on these so-called geniuses at the hedge funds that are losing all your money for you, they're like, well, we're selling, man. We're selling right here. And they put a stops in here. And there's people that they're short from, say, here. And they put their stops in here. They've been stopped out. The guy with the stop here, he stopped out. Because they're looking at the big, they think this is like going to go on forever. But I think we all know that double bottoms, there's such thing as a double bottom, and then people say, oh, it fails. Really, it fails? Of course it fails. Because it fails because your stop was too tight for that double bottom. Nobody ever talks about that. Yeah, if you put a stop in right here, you've got in on this second bottom. It's kind of an angular double bottom. This is like people call flags and stuff, but it's a lot easier to pick that out. I think, you can just see, and of course, we never came back here. That would have been the greatest place for that to just spike down and fill you, but it does not happen. It took all the way to here for that to happen, but it finally bounced into this doji. This will go and this is the range traders. But you got to figure that anytime you see these insane moves, you got to believe the next thing to happen is chopola. And this is considered chopola because we come back, we're trapped in this nonsense. But this is the next feeding zone for the market. But yeah, if you just follow that, of course, I think the structure is just going to trump any type of colors. You know, I don't care what color clothes you're wearing. If your skeleton is in a certain pattern, that's going to determine how your clothes hang on you. It determines where the trend, it's making the trend. So this thing is moving so hard that my smooth candle is leaving a gap behind it, a vapor gap there. But it's really endless, and I mean, I guess I like to make it look as pretty as I can. Here's one that's multiple layers. This is just ridiculous. Now here I don't have the blacks running. I have the blues. The down has a different color at the very edge, but I do have the line chart on top. So here I'm buying the dollar yen on pullbacks because we're in green mode, buy mode. Here I'm in buy mode. This is technically sell mode, and this is the Australian dollar here in sell mode. We got this beautiful triple touch on close, but trend traders take it up into that, and then it goes full on bear there. But they're trapping here. You can all see this is a 20 pip grid, that this is the trap starts here. You got to figure all the way to this, and that's exactly where they take it to, that whole range. It never even made it back to here. So if you wrote it to here, you're like, uh-oh. So, but they retagged the 100, and now they take it there. But they also take it to here. So a lot of people are waiting for this inflection point, I'm sure. Or at least the market. The market's rhythm, that is such a natural bounce that maybe it just randomly stopped there. But it's the idea that the guy that bought here, people speculate pretty heavy that, oh, I'm going to buy here, and look, I'm right, we're going up. And I have my stop here. So I bought here, and the reason I bought there was I'm going to ignore this trend line break, and I'm going to say, you know what, maybe the market's just not moving up that quickly. And trend traders are willing to, this is what they're looking at. And they're right. They're right all the way till here. They're so right, because their channel looks like this. And this thing's just going to keep going up against the dollar. And this stuff happens, right? So we all know what happens. That's why, who would buy this pullback if they didn't think it was going to go back to this color? But what is the lowest risk trade is baby pullbacks into this trend when it's screaming, get the hell out. Only because you just made that money, get out. The problem is when it starts to go drifty, then you gotta go up a level if you want to smooth it out, or you just step away because there's not that one price pulse for you to ride. It's not going to work. But so when this thing fails here, it's really about the fact that the trend line broke there, and this climax is into that doji. We cannot get above that on close. So this sets up this trajectory. The fact that it rallied in there might even be random, but it's not from a horizontal standpoint, because the guy that bought here, remember, there's people that are like, this baby's going. I mean, there's long-term traders out there. When they don't have stops, they don't trade with stops. So they're just so big. Maybe their stops here. When this thing comes back to here, they're like, we're still good. We're still good. It could come back here, buddy. But when it comes to here, they're like, oh, we're still good. We're still good. But they're like, you know what? This high is, since this high here, this high is higher than this high, they're like, you know what? We're like at break even. And what do you say? Since we bought here, let's go flat. We're so wrong. And maybe we're looking at this trend line. So these two things happen, but this is no different than if you drop a tennis ball. There's a point at which the tennis ball is going to naturally do this thing where it does this, right? And then somebody kicks it and it goes like that, and so there's no difference. I can take you to data charts that you can go on the internet and look at charts, right? It doesn't matter what kind of chart. I'm going to do a thing about that. I'm going to take charts from different data sources like Resonate. You can take a piece of music and plot it, and you're going to see tops become bottoms and bottoms become tops. You can take the temperature of the day, and you're going to see inflection points like this because people are part of Mother Nature, and they behave in a way that causes these type of inflection points. But just psychologically, from a price point. So when the breadth of the market, because people that trade, hopefully they've got a breadth, they're alive. But even though we're all trading this stuff out of a decentralized thing, doesn't mean that humans or people that need this money, they need the inventory rotated. And so also there's deadlines involved, right? People have to make their payments, and some of this stuff is like that. And here's Wednesday. And Wednesday is typically this bizarre rollover day. So if you look at the middle of the week here, notice the drama switch. See the distribution in the middle of the week, then bam, all the way back to here. This is the middle of the week. We could expect the scalpers they're gonna scalp to here, gonna get out, and maybe it continues. But this is always a big hot spot. The middle of the week is always the structural zigzag for the week. So it's closing in here. I'm gonna go long for some more stuff here. So I'm gonna buy more of this. Counter trend trade this, and I guess I don't get too excited waiting for this. So here's a euro dollar, and look at this kickback here. Look at this 4-hour kickback into the what a classic. Of course, if you had a buy limit here, you didn't get filled, but only taking, here's a top, bottom, and structure. Here's if you have a buy limit here, it got filled. Got filled there. And then it closed here, you're in profits. It closed in profits on the 4-hour. And if you held on to it, because maybe you went long here, like if you went long here at this first top, bottom of the 4-hour, because of that color, you're pretty good. And the euro is smooth enough. There's enough participants here, but how do you explain this? I was short because it was bearish, and then wickety-do, we go a few pips lower, but we revisit this triangle. That's a triangle there. Here is a double bottom. Here is so this triangle is retested and violently taken up to here. Retest that, and this is complete major distribution. Like, we are going to distribute that thing, and then we're going to take that puppy right to the floor, trap everybody here, and everybody's bearish. I mean, this is when you see the headlines. People are like, oh, I want to. I actually heard a guy call a talk radio show here, and he was saying, oh my God, this is when the Canadian dollar is climaxing against the dollar. He said, it's just so terrible out there. And I thought, oh God, if a guy's calling it a radio and complaining, we know we're at a big turning point. If a guy's complaining on the radio, holy God. Okay, so the pound's screaming up right now. So here comes the pound's coming back with a vengeance right now. I'm looking for the euro to plunge a little bit more here. So I put all these buy orders down here. And the thing is, you can set these scalps up in advance. So you can put a buy order down here. And you have the scalp built in. And say here, maybe we come down here. 8 hours I'm giving you on these orders. We just pepper this whole thing. You could put about 100K in here, but it's 100 pieces of. I got this down to a micro count. Drop all these 1Ks, walk away. Put 200K in here a week. You run 200K through here, so you can make about what, $100 a week, $300 a week on a micro account. I don't know if you place them right. You could trade a bunch of currencies. You could put 10 orders on 10 currencies. That should keep you busy. You could just put structural orders. Forget the trend thing, but it's not too bad. If you're standing there and you can pull the trigger on a buy at the market here, you got pendings in here to get filled, that's going to work. Look at the half hour. Right, look at all the trades today. Here's your only sell. Here's your only buys. Now here you have to really buy this. And you pull back into here, so here's your entry. But I would definitely be counter. Like if I saw this thing go cut and slightly turn to a color, this is where you're not thinking in terms of like, oh, turn this color, so I'm gonna go long. No, you're looking at this factor that the last known, this was supposed to be the support. So it's supposed to come to here and go up, but it didn't, so that becomes the inflection point, because everybody that bought here is like, oh my God, it's not going up after all. And here is the same thing. Guy buys here, he gets to break even, he's like, oh, honey. And you know, being break even on your account, so this, if you know you're wrong, this is the bell. It's also the place for people to sell one more time. But problem is now it's chop fill. Buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. But now this quiet wedge here, I'm thinking, we could go here. But always be prepared for these moves. You know, this is a 40 pip chop window. And sure, we'd all love to see this. Oh, I sold when it went blue, and look at, I made all this money. But this rarely happens. It really rarely happens. Better to think about the 1 hour chart right now, and this would have been your entry here. You had like 2 hours to get long here. Right, 2 hours to get long, 2 hours to get long. So you buy here, you buy here. If you wanted to buy those poke downs, those wicks, you would have had limits there, trailing limits, or you got buy limits here because you got a triple top, becomes a bottom, and it's okay to buy because you're in this color. Double top becomes a bottom, it's okay to buy. It's okay to buy here. You could have gone long just like a moron right here. I did what you said. I bought when it was yeah, I'll make a money. It's crazy. That is all well and good till you get to the I bought like you said. I bought like you said, and oof. Ouchie wawa. So yeah. Anyways, I guess these fast moves don't last long, but that's typical trend stuff. Just doesn't last long. Okay, so right now this is an uptrend according to color wheel. It's an uptrend for me too because it just pulled back to this last known top. So you have to let that bake. This is a 4 hour chart, so you gotta let this stuff cook. Not a lot of trades here. This looks like it could go up, but you really have to treat this as a sell right now. So I put all my retest orders in down here at these last known pivots. Okay, something just happened. I don't know. News just came out. So now the market's going to get all frisky coming in Asia. So here's the fun begins. And this, you're supposed to be short here, right? You're supposed to be selling. Now, it's hard to do psychologically. I always found that hard to do. After you build a system, you come back and you're like, God, could I really sell into that? I mean, is that really going to go down more? But I guess if you can see that the guy that bought this low thinking he was going to buy a new car because he bought that low, it didn't happen. And when it came back to here, he's like, maybe I should just get out. And that was a 16-hour trauma for him. There had to be somebody that I wish it wouldn't hold on to these tooltips here. You have to be very careful. This bottom here, and so now the people that are short, they went short on this, and now there's a high possibility they're trapped now, at least for here. So there's always a scalp. You don't have to sell, but you can be aware of the fact that people are selling these rallies. And if you're waiting for your buy limits to fill and you're not willing to sell here, then you have your buy limits on that top, and this is your capture window. You kind of get punished there, but you make it all back to here. So those are the things to consider. Do you want to ride it to somebody else's destination? And when people have a target, they typically don't reverse there because for whatever reason they're out and they're like, that's fine with me. I just made money. I don't care about the rest of it. Which I guess I'm overly intrigued with everything that's going on in these markets because it's just so hilarious. So I'm always thinking, well, hey, trade, certainly if you could get up to trading 20 pairs, but I think you'd have to hand place all the orders, because if you hit a hotkey and you launched an elaborate matrix, I think you're just wasting money, even if it's a little bit of money. I think all money, like it was downtown today, and everybody's tearing up their pipes, So I'm down there, and I went down to this hoity-toity coffee shop where they try to make you think you're in New York City because the prices, they dropped off the last, it's like going to a 4-digit Forex broker. So they dropped off the last number, like they're so fancy that it's like, well, that's not $2.50. It's 2.5. Forget the zero. We don't want to hurt your brain with the extra font. Plus, if you see those extra zeros, too many zeros, you think you're in Zimbabwe. So it's funny how, like, you go to the fancy part of town and, it's cute, right? But they do have high-end stuff. I mean, they made an espresso there that's got a head on it like a beer. So, but yeah, they charge you $2.50. You feel like, you know what? I almost want to say, hey, anybody in the coffee shop want to open a micro account, put a 25 pip stop in, huh? Gosh, I just always think when I'm out, why aren't people trading? What in the hell is wrong with people? These markets like free money out here. Free money, people. People don't believe in it, so they don't want it. It's the old saw. Free money doesn't exist. Now here's a classic. Here's a structured trade. A top becomes a bottom with trend. And once again, and this euro to the yen is just a great classic currency. You can't get more different than European to Japanese. I mean, the Americans and the Japanese are similar, I think, but look at this. I'll so be buying this tonight if we come back here. So keep dropping these guys, keep peppering these markets, and this is really like watering a bunch of vegetables. I guess this is like maintaining a whole garden of nonsense. So you have to be a gardener. Anybody ever saw the movie Being There? Chauncey Gardner? If you think if he had made a movie where he was a trader, my Lord, think about Chauncey Gardner trading for you. He would clean up. He's such a simpleton. He's such a literal person, that his inability to, I don't know, if you saw the movie, Peter Sellers, Being There. I guess every time I talk, and I get so old that I mention stuff and people look at me like, oh, they politely laugh because I guess I say it in a funny way, but I'm always a little bit disappointed when I say, do you know what I'm talking about? They go, no, I have no clue. But it sounded funny. You made it sound like it was a funny thing that happened. I go, it kind of was, actually, back in the day. But yeah, I guess you want to hedge your bets and always fix the scale. And the nice thing about the smooth system here is that you don't have to look back. You know it's bearish, but we're looking for structure. So to me, structure is right here. Double bottom. The last note top. The trade here obviously was people scalp the crap out of this doji. You don't need a PhD for this, and you don't need a Fibonacci tool. Your buy limit's sitting here. Got a whole week to place them. Cha-ching. Couple times a cha-ching. On and on cha-ching this morning on this thing. It's crazy. Wick Central. So it was a limit trader's dream this morning. on that puppy. This one, this is a structural trade. Coming back into, I mean, structural from the foundation of the structure. This is the basement. This is the first floor. So if we're going to go to the second floor, we're going to have to come back to the first floor. The stairway, you have to backpedal. You have to come back to this double top. Double bottom, double top. Dollar yen, very simple, very clean, very well-behaved market. It's like the Japanese people, you know. You hear them at a rock concert, and they don't even applaud. They think it's the first movement, so it's so cute. They don't applaud. It's like totally dead silence. You know, it's like a recital to them. Even the most ruckus rock concert, they consider that a recital. It's so adorable, and the girls are cute. So what are you gonna do? But so. Here is, we're still kind of quieting down. We could get a possible rally to here, maybe by the end of the week if we're lucky. Here, looks like we're still in meltdown mode. This, when it gets to here, I'll get the hell out. This, when it gets to here, I get the hell out. And that's it. You know? Not much to say, not much to do. Pretty boring. But I'll put the link of this this indicator on the thing here. It's MetaTrader's T5. So yeah, well, the week's half over, so hopefully we'll make some money.